U.S. Senate confirms Leo Bozell as ambassador to South Africa amid strained relations. Lindsay Dentlinger. Media critic and conservative activist Leo Bozell has been confirmed by the United States Senate to be that country's next ambassador to South Africa. Bozell's nomination by President Donald Trump in March raised concerns, given Bozell's history as an anti-ANC activist during the apartheid years. The nomination had to pass through several legislative steps, including a hearing before the Senate's Foreign Relations Committee in October, before being put to the vote in the Senate on Wednesday. In March, South Africa's ambassador to the United States, Ebrahim Rasool, was sent back home for criticizing Trump's leadership style, and he's not yet been replaced. The United States has not had an ambassador in South Africa since January, following the resignation of Reuben Brigety ahead of the Trump administration taking charge. During the wait for Leo Bozell's confirmation as ambassador, the embassy in Pretoria has been run by an acting head of mission, David Green, who arrived in March. This was at the height of tensions between the two countries over President Trump's false beliefs of a genocide in South Africa and his invitation for white Afrikaners to seek refuge in the U.S. The U.S. did not participate in most of the G20 program in South Africa this year, while Trump says South Africa is not welcome in his country next year to attend G20 events. In October, Bozell said if confirmed as ambassador, he would communicate the U.S.'s objections to South Africa's non-aligned stance towards Russia, Iran, and China, and press the government to drop its genocide case against Israel in the International Court of Justice. When South African politicians greet as friends those who seek to destabilize the world's peace and security, then common ground between our two countries feels harder to find. However, when questioned by a Democrat senator, Bozell would not say outright whether he truly believed there's a genocide unfolding in South Africa. On Tuesday, the Home Affairs Department arrested and deported 7 Kenyan nationals who were processing refugee applications for Afrikaners seeking asylum in the U.S. The confirmation vote, held on Wednesday, followed Bozell's nomination by President Donald Trump in March and a contentious confirmation hearing before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee in October. After advancing through several legislative stages, the nomination was approved largely along party lines as part of a broader package of Trump administration appointees. Bozell assumes the role at a moment of historic strain in U.S.-South Africa relations, driven by disputes over Pretoria's foreign policy posture, land reform and affirmative action policies, and its case against Israel at the International Court of Justice (ICJ). Background and controversies. Bozell is the founder and president of the Media Research Center, a conservative watchdog organization focused on what it characterizes as liberal bias in U.S. media. He has no prior diplomatic experience, and his nomination drew criticism due to his outspoken opposition to the African National Congress, ANC, during the apartheid era, when he aligned with U.S. conservatives who viewed the ANC as closely tied to Soviet interests. During his October confirmation hearing, Bozell said that, if confirmed, he would press South Africa on several key issues, including its non-aligned foreign policy and relationships with Russia, Iran, and China. He also called on Pretoria to drop its ICJ genocide case against Israel, describing the action as an injustice that complicates efforts to find common ground. In addition, he raised concerns about what he described as unjust racial discrimination against white Afrikaners. When questioned by Democratic senators, Bozell declined to directly affirm or reject President Trump's claims of a genocide against white farmers in South Africa, stating that he was not a lawyer and could not address the legal definition. He nonetheless cited reports of thousands of attacks on white farmers and voiced support for efforts to assist Afrikaners he said were facing racial persecution, including through potential refugee resettlement in the United States. The ambassadorship has been vacant since January 2025, when Reuben Brigety resigned ahead of President Trump's second inauguration. Since then, the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria has been led by acting head of mission David Green. Relations have further deteriorated over the past year. In March 2025, the United States expelled South Africa's ambassador to Washington, Ebrahim Rasool, after he publicly criticized President Trump and accused the administration of promoting white supremacy. Rasool has not been replaced. The Trump administration has also sharply reduced foreign aid to South Africa, including funding for HIV/AIDS programs, while prioritizing a refugee initiative for white Afrikaners, steps Pretoria has described as being based on misinformation. Additionally, the United States largely boycotted the 2025 G20 summit hosted by South Africa in Johannesburg and has indicated that South Africa will not be invited to U.S.-hosted G20 events in 2026. South African officials have rejected allegations of systemic persecution of white citizens as unfounded and have characterized recent U.S. actions as interference in domestic affairs. President Cyril Ramaphosa and Foreign Minister Ronald Lamola have emphasized South Africa's sovereignty while expressing openness to continued dialogue. Analysts warn that Bozell's confirmation could further strain cooperation on trade, public health, and global issues. While South Africa has not yet publicly responded to the appointment, his confirmation underscores the significant challenges facing the bilateral relationship in the period ahead.